In the history of Africa, the unfortunate colonial control suffered by most African nations under the hands of Europeans brought a lot of issues. Well, with the subsequent independence, there were still issues that were being witnessed based on the activities and actions of the European powers. This is analyzed under the issue of neo-colonialism. Well, looking at neo-colonialism and African political development, the continent of Africa suffered a lot of issues after the independence were achieved. Well, we have to narrow down these issues in 3 or 4 areas. Yes, African countries got independence from European nations, but the Europeans did not just leave. The impacts created by the Europeans, the system created by the Europeans, and the interest Europeans still had in Africa were still maintained. Well, presently, Africa can say that there is still the issue of proper liberation from Europeans. But let's look at some of the areas of this neo-colonialism pressures or neo-colonialism imperialist activities. Well, let's look at the economic area. Yes, Africans got independence, but most of the structures prior to or after independence, we are still European structures. And these structures did not just change overnight to African economic structures. Yes, in some countries, there were the issue of nationalizing some business establishments. But the system still favored European merchants. The economic system still favored European merchants. That today, that at the time, even to the present day, most big companies or big business establishments in Africa have almost 50 to 60% control of Europeans. In most of them, you will see European chairmen, board of directors, and all that. Well, I wouldn't like to mention some of their names. By so doing, these European businesses still control the economy of a good number of African countries. Although it's not a bad thing for external investment to be controlled in a country, but some of them get to a point of not even doing much to encourage or to promote African development. I know some persons may like to argue with this. Let me give you an instance. If you go to Europe, for instance, and you look at their football activities or football competitions, you have some of these big companies sponsoring clubs, putting their names in front of the jerseys of clubs, of football clubs in Europe. But because some of these big companies in Africa are owned by Europeans, are majorly owned by Europeans, most of them don't get involved in that. They tend not to even sponsor most activities within Africa. Their social responsibility tend to be very poor. And this is a huge issue in African economy. Look at a place like, well, I wouldn't like to go into giving specific details. But if you look at some oil companies operating, yes, some of them came after independence. How do they treat Africans as regard how they treat other parts of the world where they operate? In the Nigerian area, in the Niger Delta area, you see a whole lot of issues with oil spillage. And the companies responsible for that do little to clean up the environment. But recently there was issue that has to do with the British Petroleum and oil spillage. They were meant to pay a huge amount of money, and they still clean it up. Well, the next one is political influence. Political influence. Yes, or I can say that presently the influence or the political influence of Europeans in Africa has been handled to a certain level. But prior to this time, some rulers or some leaders that came into the throne in Africa were supported and imposed by the Europeans. There were cases in Africa where Europeans tend to favor some particular groups against the other ones prior to the independence of such country, or even towards the independence of such country. Europeans created a system that favored a particular group against the other ones, thereby creating instability or creating and pushing unnecessary ethnic orientation in the history of such country. Now the next one is sociocultural influence, and this is a very big thing in Africa, a very big problem in Africa. The social cultures or the social influence and the cultural influence brought in by Europeans is or are still being witnessed and seen in African society today. The young Africans today, for instance, tend to favor European ways of dressing when given in comparison with African ways of dressing. Most African nations or countries today have their lingua franca as European languages. Myself, as an African, I am presenting this using English because in my country, the lingua franca is English. And that's a problem. In the area of religious analysis or religious activities, the inability of Europeans to understand the religious activities or the traditional religions in Africa made them to demonize or negatively analyze African religious activities. This made Africans to even look at their religious activities as demonized or negative practices. Well, but if you take time to analyze the religious activities of Africans prior to the coming of the Europeans, you see a lot of positive impacts in them. But because the Europeans did not understand these practices and don't really care to understand these practices, they decided to demonize it and make theirs to look like a better religious activity. Then the next one we have to analyze is military imperialism or military imperialism or activities or influence. In some parts of Africa, to the present day, there are still strong military influence, military bases of European nations in Africa. Although this is mainly witnessed in the former French colonies, where the French made most of them to sign military pact or military agreement with them. There were cases of leaders being imposed on the people by the French using military means. One of such leaders was the former president of Gabon, precisely Omar Bongo. Omar Bongo was, in fact, even installed by French paratroopers. The French has as well tried to intervene in issues in Chad Republic using military means. Presently, there are issues in Mali where the Malians or the people living in Mali tend not to be comfortable with the presence of French troops in the territory. There have been accusations by the people in Mali against the French military or French army as arming the rebels, and other accusations in most places within that region. Well, I am not also saying that Africans should continue to blame European activities in the past or present as the problem. I think the bottom line is this: Africans should look inwards in order to get better systems, better situations, better arrangements that will help or suit their development. Unfortunately, no other external power or external force can do it for Africans. Today, in some parts of the East African area, you have and some other parts of Africa, you have the Swahili language. Yes, it was created by the infusion of a lot of some languages within that area, both foreign and local. But the bottom line is this: it is not even spoken in Europe, and it has given that area some level of identity. And most persons that use it, at least you can see that the Swahili is a language that has made an impact. Well, I still don't believe that Africans in general should continue to blame European imperialism or neo-colonialism or neo-imperialistic activities as the major problem towards the low level of development in Africa. Because by the end of the day, Africans presently are responsible for themselves. And each government in Africa should analyze the trend on the national and international platform to know how to structure their internal arrangement or internal policies to suit or make impact in a global arrangement, thereby sustaining their internal growth. Well, as I said, I'm not blaming the Europeans. I think the bulk of the blame is on Africans. If you are watching our presentation for the very first time, please subscribe to our channel and click on the notification icon so that anytime we present a new content, you'll be one of the earliest persons to be notified. We also beg you to share our content so that it will reach many people that may like to watch our content. We discuss African history and African development issues with pure objectivity. Thanks for still being part of our channel.